Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Academy. My name is Tom Scarda. I'm excited to bring you one of my favorite concepts today because it is something that is recession resistant, something that is technology resistant, something that works even during pandemic times. So, in a second, we're going to talk about 1-800 Packouts. But before we get started, if you don't know me, again, my name is Tom Scarda. I'm a franchise advisor and coach, and I work with people all over the country, and I match people with opportunities based on skills, personality, goals, kind of like the eHarmony of business, and been helping people kind of give the proverbial finger to corporate America and kind of capture the American dream through franchise ownership, which is a business with training wheels. So we're going to talk with the president of 1-800 Packouts today, right now, and welcome, Stefan. Great to have you.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is great. So, five star franchising is a parent company that owns, I don't know how many franchises now, five or six,
Yeah,
right?
six different operational home services operations.
Cool. And so one of those is 1-800 Packouts. So give us an overview. What is 1-800 Packouts?
Sure. So we're a content provider within the restoration space. So we deal with belongings, personal belongings in individual homes, or the content within a commercial property that has suffered a loss. So we do everything from packing it out, getting it removed from the property, cleaning it properly through the right process and procedures with ultrasonics, et cetera, storing it until everything's taken care of, and then bringing it back. So we touch everybody's personal belongings and try to make sure everything's safe.
So let me see if I have this straight. So let's imagine somebody has like a flood or like even worse, maybe a little kitchen fire. A little kitchen fire produces a lot of smoke. So now the rugs, the upholstery, clothing in the bedrooms all now smell like smoke. So what happened? So restoration comes, which is not you guys, but there's another company that will come and kind of board up the windows or whatever. Actually, let's have you
Sure.
explain it instead of me
Yeah,
guessing.
no, you got it. You're getting it. You're heading in the right direction. There's all sorts of little avenues that can happen, but generally speaking, what happens in a situation like that with a fire, let's call it a kitchen fire, that smoke and soot's going to get up in the HVAC system and the heating system, and it's actually going to cover and probably go through the entire property, whether it's an apartment or a house. And so, what will happen if it was a house? You're going to end up having a safety mechanism. So that's going to be the board up make safe. So they're going to make sure everything's kind of blocked off and not having any other incremental elements. So like you said, boarding up windows that were broken or anything like that. So they're just getting it settled. That's where it starts. And usually by then you've got insurance starting to get involved, an adjuster, a third party administrator, which is basically another adjuster that kind of gets in. So, everybody wants their fingers in this pie all of a sudden, but once you get there, then there's the mitigation of the damage. So that's going to be getting all of the damaged area, the soot, the fire area taken care of. So that's going to get removed, all the damage. They're going to make sure the walls are taken care of and are safe again. So they're going to make sure the rebuild's getting ready. All that's going to get removed. Odor from the smoke itself has to be removed. There's a lot of mechanisms that can happen with that. So that's the mitigation group. They're going to work on that. Before they even can do that, there's all the items, the personal belongings that are in the house, for example, that either got touched or are in the way. And those have to get removed so that it can be done safely and properly. And so that's where they call a content company, 1-800 Packouts. That's what we do. We will come in and work with that mitigation company to make sure we get the personal belongings out. We'll work with the insurance carrier to make sure that the homeowner is getting everything they need. So you said it, in a fire, you're going to get rugs, upholstery on your curtains, your clothes. So that's a whole dynamic of content. We focus a lot on the hard contents, the bigger items, your sofas, your beds, your mattresses, and make sure we get all of that. We'll deal with your china and glassware and all that stuff that you don't even think would be damaged, but is getting, the soot's getting in everywhere. We make sure it's clean, 100% ready to go back, and we store it for everybody. So we can come in, take care of it, move it out, get it cleaned, store it while while the place is getting repaired, and then we'll bring it back. So it is literally that one portion. So you have the mitigation, the content, move out, rebuild, and then the content move back. So those are the elements.
So then your clients are actually the restoration companies in the franchise owners area.
Restoration companies, we can get called directly from an adjuster, which is a lot of the time the adjusters know based on how we estimate and follow the standard estimating procedures, et cetera. We have a reputation for being correct and on par with what insurance is expecting. So we can do that. So we get calls from them. We get calls from insurance carriers directly. And sometimes we get calls from homeowners. Mm-hmm. They have done their research. They don't, this is not something you just kind of know. This isn't something you share at a cocktail party if this has ever happened. If you're a repeat customer of 1-800-PACKOUTS, you've had some bad luck to have multiple things happen that you need us. So it's not like it's just on the tip of your tongue that you see and talk about every day. So folks do a lot of research. So we will hear from some homeowners as well. And they look at reviews, they look at the breakage. These are their personal belongings. It's their heirlooms potentially. And that has a big factor on it. They don't want to just thrown around. They want to know that it's going to be taken care of and they're going to get it back properly.
Who pays for all of this? Is it the homeowner or does it come out of insurance?
Depends on the claim, the damage, and what happened, but a lot of it's insurance. There might be a deductible, obviously, in your insurance and how that's covered. But usually on that type of this example would be definitely insurance, unless it was arson, and then they would say they wouldn't cover it. But exceptions, right? They're always out there. But yeah, most of it's insurance. We do have some individual claims or folks that want something cleaned. It's been they've gone in their parents' house. It's been collecting dust, mold, etc. But they still want it revived. We can do individual projects like that as well. That's a self-pay. We do the high-end ultrasonic cleaning, make sure everything's removed correctly and back to its natural abilities.
So tell me more about the ultrasonic cleaning. What is that? Is that a machine you bring into the house, or are you doing
no? It's a large. It's like a large tub, if you would, but it has it's powered and has ultrasonic waves. So a lot of people call it a jewelry cleaner, but it's quite large. I mean, it's some of them are 5 feet by 3 feet wide and 4 feet tall, and they actually just run ultrasonic waves through the system with nice cleaning solutions that actually work with it, and it vibrates off the dirt, the soot, mold, and then counteracts it with the applications that are put in it to protect the items that are there. So it's not just your hand cleaning. It takes a lot of manual labor and a lot of time, and you miss things. It's not as in depth, and so not everything can go in ultrasonic either. So you have to be careful with it. But that's what it is, and it goes through a little faster, gets things done at a much higher quality for everybody, and it's quite safe.
Yeah. And are you able to get the smell out of like drapery and clothing?
Oh yeah, sure. So you can do all of that. You can get it out of furniture, the upholstery and the furniture as well. So you can use that through either an ozone mechanism. So it literally just takes it. We put it in a clean room, let an ozone run through it. There's some other products that actually help take out the smell. You can also use the hydroxyl machine. All of these are done back at our warehouse, so it's safe. It's not done in the house. We put it in the right containment. We can run, most of our franchise owners have rooms that hold a sofa, chairs, a couple mattresses all at once. Some of them even have bigger ones that they can almost put, 4 rooms of furniture in there and let it all get the odor out. It's like a 12-hour process, making sure that odor is removed, but it isn't anything else that we have to do. You can do that with drapes, and you can do it with the clothes. Usually go through a dry cleaning process as well from a high-end dry cleaning element and be protected that way. So yeah, odor can be removed. Just takes a little bit of time, and you have the right tools to get it done.
Right. It's not manual labor. It's just using these machines, leveraging off of it.
It's using them correctly, making sure you have the right balance on them. Ozone can be a little dangerous if not used correctly. Obviously, a lot of our owners have moved all the way up to hydroxyl, which is more advanced. It's a little more expeditious for them, so they can run things a little faster, gets the odor out a little quicker. But you put a little element with it. We have some vendor partners that have some great products that go with it that help absorb that odor and remove it from the product and the contents of your home. So it's really just getting it in there, making sure you got it set right, taking the time to run it, and then being able to remove it and then wrap it and put it in a safe environment so that it can be brought back.
So would it be an accurate statement to say that insurance companies really like the work that you do because it's saving them money instead of having to replace, they can actually repair and restore, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. And so obviously one of the big issues in the content environment is breakage, which they don't want to high breakage because they have to replace it, like you just said. But yeah, some of it is, that's exactly what it is. Can it just be cleaned and be revived, if you would, versus repaying or buying new on any of those elements? It's an argument. If you see this from other sides of it, you get into these arguments of, well, it's worth this much, and they're taking it, the insurance companies kind of come back at a certain value, but you as a homeowner may find it if it had higher value, or you're not getting your full value. They depreciated the sofa since you had it for 5 years. All these little elements that kind of come with it, and our headaches when you can get it back and get it back properly. That's a nice thing for both sides on most things. The other thing are heirlooms that are, really important to the homeowner, that the insurance company is saying, well, it doesn't have that much value, but it might have been your great grandfather's or something like that, and you want to take care of it. We take care of military medals that have been in a fire, make sure they get them cleaned. There's a lot that goes with that has a personal touch to it that you also want to be able to deliver, which is another element of the content side. There's that empathy element that has to go in, because these are folks' personal pieces. And, that you have to be able to say, we're about to take this, we're going to clean it, and then we're going to bring and make sure we bring it all back to you in like nothing ever happened. And so it's a little bit of a delicate element, but definitely a good thing for insurance carriers. They do like that. It's difficult to replace everything.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's such an interesting type of business. Like, you don't wake up in the morning and feel like, oh, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to get into this business. Like, you don't even really know it unless you're experienced, unfortunately, something like this. But you're like the knight in shining armor when you show up and you're able to help people and help them, save their personal heirlooms and other things, pictures, that got wet and all that kind of stuff. It's just irreplaceable. So
That's correct.
fantastic, and it makes it also, in my mind, like really recession proof. Makes it technology proof. You got. I'm assuming, you tell me, there's like the franchise owner would have a small team of people that actually do the move out, the pack out, store it, and then you have a warehouse, right? How does that work?
Yeah, so we require that all of our franchise owners have their own secure location. You're not storing it just in a public storage facility, for example. You have it. We store them in vaults. We inventory everything, so homeowners can actually get anything. We've had a lot of homeowners that had something and their stuff's been in storage, and it's Christmas time and they're in a rental and they wanted their Christmas decorations or something, and we know where they are in the inventory list and which vault they're in, and we can actually pull that for them so that they can have some balance back in their life in that situation. But so we do require that. The other area is it does take teams. The big area is business development, to be honest. That's where you need the first person, in our opinion, that's the first person in. We can operate the operational elements. We have the process. We have what we are saying the right thing to do is, but you need to get the work in to do the right stuff. And that's where we go back and forth with newer owners. That's a tough deal, is to be in that sales environment that isn't a quick sell. You need to be building that relationship with folks. So they have a team of that, and then yes, the operational team. But we have online training that they can hire employees, they can get the existing training, they can train themselves. We have business coaches that can help them. So they'll build a team that are actually working with the pack out, if you would, the production side. But we teach in everything with what we recommend for the correct amount of bubble wrap inside of what size box, so that for multiple reasons, it won't break, but also that you are going to get compensated by the insurance company. If you try to say everything's in a little bitty box and you're getting paid by the box, and you end up with all these boxes, the insurance companies go, why couldn't you have put blankets in one box, for example? They're not going to break. And so you get into this. So there's a whole formula to it for the industry. Can you figure it out on your own? Yes, you can. I don't know if you really want to take that time and energy to figure out all those formulas that are out there, and they change regularly. And so being in touch with the folks on the software side that are in the industry, with the carriers themselves, other owners, it's been one of the great things about this industry is owners talk to owners. Your competitors aren't hiding from you. They're happy to go out and share with you the war stories that they've had and the glory stories that they've had. And there's enough business for a lot of folks out there, so it's not as contentious as you might think. We're all out there trying to do something pretty good. At the same time, our owners are trying to make a strong, and it's an investment. They're trying to make a good amount of money at it. So it's just not outrageously contentious in that sense. There's a lot of camaraderie within the industry, and that makes it even better.
Yeah, you'll find out in franchising and all sorts of sub industries in franchising. It's so different than corporate America, which is one of the things that I love about franchising. It's totally the opposite. So who makes a good owner for 1-800-PACK-OUTS? Like, what's common characteristics of your top franchise owners?
So we follow a lot of elements around drive, and that's a 5-star franchising element. But it's the determination, reliability, innovation, etc. I mean, so there is those characteristics of drive, and you can just use the word drive. Don't even say what it stands for, but just drive. They have to have drive. They have to have the moxie to want to go out and do this. The folks that have struggled a little bit in our industry are folks thinking that it's going to be handed to them. And I think that's not just our industry. I'm a business owner with my wife, separate, non-franchise. And I can tell you about the headaches of not being in franchising and trying to figure it out on your own versus the franchising elements. You have to have a drive. And as a business coach, you probably talk to folks about this. This is owning a business. You can definitely give the thumb down to corporate America, but you have to run this. You have to be focused on doing it. And it's finding those folks, the ones that have this element of, I'm setting this goal, I'm driving my standards, I'm taking the facts of what it is, and I'm making my adjustments as I go. Identifying folks like that are the prime. They're the prime of the pot. They're going to take it all the time, no matter probably in anything you do. But that's the element of what we see a lot of. Not just trying to throw an investment in and hoping it floats for a little bit.
Right.
There's an effort that goes along with it, and we need to find those folks. We try to find those folks and identify them, because we don't want them to be not successful. That's not good for them. It's not good for us. It doesn't help anybody. So you're correct. We do try to find the right types of folks.
I liken it to joining a gym, right? There's so many people that join a gym and they think they're going to set the world on fire. And then they quickly realize that they can't find anybody else to work out for them. They actually have to do the work, right?
That's a great analogy. That's exactly correct. Yes.
And that's how I feel about it. A lot of people say, well, then what am I paying for? What you're paying for is the coaching and having everything already done, that the trails have been blazed. But if they were just going to have customers in your market, they would just hire a manager and open up a company store. It's up to you to make those personal relationships and build the franchise with being coached by the franchisor. And so that's sort of a misnomer People feel like, oh, I buy a franchise and I make money. Absolutely not true. Not in most franchises. Maybe McDonald's or big things like that. But even that's not guaranteed. You got to really go the extra mile. Work in your community, sponsor the softball team. Whatever it is, to get your name out there. So how did you get into this? I wanted to ask you that at the beginning, and it totally slipped my mind.
Well, I've been in franchising for just about 20 years now with different brands. So I enjoy the franchising part. But I've been in restoration before. I worked for a mitigation company and was the president of that franchise system. We had 170 franchisees, including some international, about 15 international markets. We sold that. And eventually I was some folks at Five Star started reaching out about they had acquired 1-800 Packouts, and with my restoration background and franchising background, it kind of was a nice synergy. I've really enjoyed it, so that's how I kind of got into 1-800 Packouts. Franchising was kind of by accident. I was the director of marketing for a large $1.4 billion home service company that had 3,400 corporate locations. And what was ironic about it is the quote nasty stepchild was the franchise group that originally had started it all, and they weren't getting any support. And so I said, they said, well, we need somebody to kind of help the franchisees. There's 12 of them, and they were great. They had these contracts that they had that could not be changed, and corporate would have bought them in seconds if they could have, or taken them. So they have great markets, and so I started working with them, and it was a lot of fun because I like working with entrepreneurs, folks that are really trying to drive something. You made a comment on your just a second ago about you got to work on it, and you got to build these relationships. The business owner will build a better relationship than a corporate entity because it's more personal to them, and it's impressive. Like you said, yes, if we had all the networking and all we had to do is put a manager in and go do it, that's what corporately, that's what would happen. But you can get more business by having a deeper relationship and an ongoing business relationship in the market and be powered by the national brand. And so I think that's where that power comes in. So, but that's where I started getting into franchising. I liked it, and it's been a great path from there.
I totally agree with that. You'll get more success out of a franchise owner than a manager. And so, case in point is I owned a smoothie franchise. That was my first franchise, 25 years ago. And I had some great accounts, and we did really well. We killed it. And I was putting food on the table. I quit a job to do this. Like failure was not an option, all of that stuff. Eventually, like 5 years in, I had a great outdoor venue. I was subcontracting for Aramark, who a lot of people know, concession company. And they came to me one day and they said, "Yeah, we're not going to renew your contract next year. We're going to do our own smoothie operation." So it was devastating to me losing the contract. But then I would go back there and it was like concerts, and the smoothie operation was ridiculous. They ran it into the ground because they had a bunch of kids running it. They didn't care. They were there for the summer job, and they had a manager, and the manager was just putting out fires all day long, and it stunk. And so they were like greedy. Instead of taking a percentage of what I was producing, they wanted the whole thing, and ended up probably making less than what I was paying them on a percentage. So I totally agree with you. And it's, when you think about it, as you were talking, this kind of thing came into my head, this thought that it's almost like you buy a franchise, you invest in it, but also it's kind of like running a company store, but it's all you. I don't know how to put it in words, but I suddenly got this like idea. I'm gonna have to like write it out and make it a blog or something. But it's like get this, the company's giving you the reins. You run it.
Yep.
It's like when people don't realize Starbucks is not a franchise. So there's a manager. The manager gets paid okay. It's not great. But then they get a bonus, which is like a certain percentage of the store gross sales for the year, which is could be significant for them.
Yep.
And so there's a little bit of ownership, but at the end of the day, they're just putting out fires, just trying, and they're not going the extra mile. It's like, if I make an extra 50,000 for bonus, that's great, but they're not going to go for the 100,000. Where an owner will, and then open up more units, and then have people working, and then I don't have to tell you, but
Yeah, it's a big deal because you're just hitting on something. It's yours. At the same time, in the franchise, you're backed by a national company that should have support for it. And this is where innovation comes in the franchising world. Is it comes from franchise owners. It
yes,
doesn't always come from corporate. In fact, if it's coming from corporate, I would be shocked at the franchise owners. What are they doing? Because they're the face of everything. They're seeing this day in and day out. So sure, we have processes. If the process for 1-800 pack out is perfect and we don't have to make any changes, sure, then here it is, follow the model and everything goes. Don't change anything. You're only going to get so far. We want feedback. The market is ever changing. Restoration changes on a regular basis. There's different elements that come in. There's different rules that come in. We need to hear about it. And when we learn about it, we can adjust. I was talking to a franchise owner and they, well, you didn't have this element of for sales, leave behinds and what's not. And I said, well, we did. They're all in individual pieces and you can make your own kit. Like we have a whole store where there's marketing elements. You don't like it, you have a weekly meeting as you get started in our franchise system with marketing, with the director of marketing, and they'll change anything you want. They'll create a whole new package for you if you want. And we get sometimes people saying, well, I had to create my own. Why? Why did you spend your time to go get a sale? And if you can't get that because you don't have the marketing materials, call us, because that's what we'll go fund. We'll go help that. We'll fund it. You pay into the fund. Let us get it back to you, because that's how we learn. It's going to benefit the entire deal. And the other thing you said is the investment. You're not just buying this just to run this. This should be an investment. At some point, there's an exit strategy, whether it's a succession plan, a sale, anything like that is forthcoming. So I've seen in different models in franchising, you get some owners that kind of pick on the brand, and you're like, why are you doing that? And I talked to FACs, franchise advisory councils at that time, and I'm like, guys, this owner over here is kind of like stirring it up, and that could be damaging to your guys' investment. And I usually don't have to say very much. I just bring it up, and the other owners that understand it go crazy because they're like, hey, if you don't like it, let us find a way to get you out of it, but don't sink it, because we all have money in here, and some of us have done very well and have a good investment going. And so it's it's a good networking element, and everybody tends to work together.
and that's probably a topic for an entire podcast about.
It probably is.
It's so funny, and it's not funny. And the thing is, people have to take ownership, and there's always, a crybaby, and that's always the weakest link in your franchise chain, literally and figuratively. But the thing that, like, what I try to explain to people that just first come to me to buy a franchise is, like, if you picture for a second, you want to open up a pizzeria, right? So you have this pizza joint, and it's your own place, and it's Sunday night, and it's like 7 p.m. You run out of cheese. What are you gonna do? You have to run to a supermarket, buy, cheese, probably crappy stuff at a very high price. If you're in a franchise that happens to be pizza, you could call up your fellow franchise owner down in the next market, and they'll happily give you whatever cheese they have available, because they want you to succeed. They don't want you to close. They don't want you to say no to a customer. That's a reflection on the entire brand. So when, that old saying, when the tide rises, all the boats float, that's franchising.
That's exactly right.
Right. So
absolutely.
So that's and then there's the other side of it. You have to follow the rules. If you're in 1-800 packouts and somebody asks you to, plaster a ceiling, that's not what you do. And so you don't do that.
And we try to help, and we're looking at other service areas that we can expand based on equipment that our owners already have, what they can start to offer. You brought up odor in certain areas. How can we start to help, in mitigation? Some mitigation companies don't have everything for odor. because they don't. It's an extra piece of equipment and so forth. But we possibly could have, at some point move into that and allow owners to expand on that a little bit. So,
Yeah, no, I love that. It's great. So, to wind this down, I appreciate your time here, Stefan. This has really been insightful. Um, is there any myths that you could break, either about, the restoration industry or about franchising in general?
um, franchising in general, I think we've talked about some of it.
Oh yeah.
Um, just because it's a franchise doesn't mean you don't have to do something. It is a business. Most franchises that you're starting at zero. It's something I've seen. And where does the cash flow start? Where are you prepared to be able to stay in strong enough till the cash flow hits and starts to become a more cyclical environment for you? That is something I've found very hard. Most people have an assumption that, oh, month one I get revenue, so I'm okay. If you bill in our industry in month one and you bill to an insurance carrier, you're 45 to 50 days out from getting your payment. So you're already into month two. So if you did that at the end of month one, you're probably into month three. So you floated 2 months with no cash. You had income accrual. And then right there, just by saying those probably 4 sentences, I get some folks that are kind of, what do you mean? I did business. I get money. And that's a myth that I think is sometimes, I think it's not a myth. I think it's an assumption that's made and not listened to from folks giving them the advice. So I would, build the pro forma, review the pro forma. What is it that it's going to make? When do you think you're going to break even as your investment? When are you going to start making profit and money that you're taking as an individual? I watched one owner pay himself a significant salary and started it 2 months before he opened his doors. he ran out of cash. And it's like, yeah, first of all, you're paying yourself significantly, period. And, it wasn't the right logic. So those are the things from a restoration side. It ebbs and flows. And the myth is that it's always there and it is recession proof. It has ups and downs because, for example, 2024 was not the largest year of restoration claims. So it made it a very, quote, dry year, if you would. Now there's all the damage that's happening in California. At the end, you had Milton and Helene kind of, so some things started to hit, but it isn't magic. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, no, well said. I love that. And it really speaks to, being well capitalized. You can't do something well on a string budget. And I always tell people, it's one thing to have the money to start the business, but then you need more money to keep the business open for the first 6 months at least. But then people often forget that there's really a third bucket of money, which is money to pay your bills at your home as you're trying to build the business. And so you need to have that capital, and that's what will keep you from going insane and feeling like, oh, I made a bad choice and I can't do this any longer. So be well capitalized. Heed that advice, no matter what you're looking at, franchised or not. But I want to thank you for your time. This has been fantastic. And if anybody wants more information about 1-800-PACKOUTS or 5-star franchising, just go over to thefranchiseacademy.com and all the information will be there. And I'll be able to help you through finding out all about this particular franchise, which I believe is a great one and one of my favorites. And you have the leadership of Stefan here. So it's
I appreciate it, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. We'll talk again. And again, thanks for your time. We'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot.